Welcome to Love Thy Lawyer, where we talk to attorneys about their lives and careers. I'm Louis Goodman. Today, I'm speaking with Renee Ross. Renee is a fellow in the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers and International Academy of Family Lawyers. She has been recognized as a super lawyer for the past 9 years. She's one of the top 50 women lawyers in Northern California. Renee limits her practice to family law and has substantial experience in divorce, custody, support, and high-asset, complex property division. Renee Ross, welcome to Love Thy Lawyer.
Thank you, Lou. Thanks so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. I guess I got to know you, for the most part, through the Earl Warren Inns of Court, where you, in addition to your great lawyering abilities, you have all kinds of acting ability, and you're always fun to watch on stage.
It was fun to be on stage. I'm really glad we got to know each other during that time.
Where are you talking to us from right now?
I am speaking to you from beautiful Marin County, California.
How long have you been practicing family law?
Most of my legal career, now it's been probably about 17, 18 years.
Where are you from originally?
The Valley, the San Fernando Valley, that is.
So, L.A. Valley.
Totally.
What city in the Valley?
Born and raised in Tarzana, Woodland Hills, Encino area.
Where'd you go to high school?
Taft High School, Woodland Hills, California. Go Toreadors.
Really? Yeah. Great team. When you graduated from Toreador High there, where did you go to college?
I went to Mount St. Mary's College in the hills of Brentwood in Los Angeles.
So not too far away for college.
Over the hill, not too far.
Still close enough you could bring your laundry home.
Exactly. Yes. Pretty close.
Well, what was that experience like?
It was a really great fit for me. The Mount, as it's fondly known, is a very small liberal arts college where, some of my class sizes were as small as 5 students and 1 teacher. And I think the largest might have been, 30 kids. So I got a lot of personalized attention, made really great friends and relationships with professors. And it's in a stunningly beautiful location in the hills of Los Angeles. So it was overall a positive experience.
What sort of academics did you get involved with there?
So I quickly became drawn to pre-law, and I spent, a lot of my undergraduate career exploring the idea of being a lawyer. So a lot earlier than that. So I focused on pre-law and philosophy.
After you graduated from college, you ultimately went to law school. Did you go straight through, or did you take some time off?
No, I went straight through. I was too worried I'd get used to the good life of making money. And so I was like, well, I might as well just go straight through. I was pretty determined and knew what I wanted to do.
Where'd you go to law school?
I went to law school at Golden Gate in downtown San Francisco. When
was it and what was it that prompted you to decide you want to be a lawyer? You went, hey, I really think that law school and lawyering is where I want to be going.
It was pretty much, my family just always told me, even as a young kid, I remember mediating family disputes, negotiating vigorously for toys that I wanted. And so my family, always just kind of reflected back in, not conscious ways that I'd be a good lawyer. And so it was, from a very young age that thought was in my head. And when I went to college, I started taking some pre-law courses to explore whether or not that was what I actually wanted to do. And I had the pleasure of taking classes with a professor that really kind of solidified that in my mind. And he had a really huge impact on my career and my, growth as a young adult. And I remember, the day that it mostly solidified. I was sitting outside the cafeteria looking over a beautiful view at campus and studying, and nosing a law book while in college. And he stopped by the table and just had a chat with me and said, you'd be a really good lawyer. And this guy was not a man that gave compliments often or easily. And so I really respected his opinion. And so then I had a hunch that I was going to be a lawyer, but that really was, a big driving force was his faith in me.
What do you think it was about the way you presented yourself that led him to think you'd be a really good lawyer?
It's a good question. I haven't thought about that. I don't know. I don't know whether it was my interest, my passion. I was pretty diligent in terms of studying and preparing for his classes. And, hopefully there was some natural ability there that he saw, just like my family did when I was a kid, that, there's parts of my brain that just naturally work in the way that would lend itself to good lawyering.
What did your friends and family say when you told them, yeah, I'm going to really go to law school now. I'm really going to do this?
Well, most of them were really supportive, and, it wasn't really much of a surprise. I have an aunt and uncle that I'm very close with, and they both happen to be lawyers. I'm still very close with them. And they said, whatever you do, Renee, don't become a lawyer. So I did not heed their advice. And, they were proud of me, but I think they didn't want me to work as hard as they did.
Well,
they tried to scare me away from it.
Yeah, just one more person not taking the good advice of their lawyer.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't listen to them.
When you moved up to Northern California to go to law school at Golden Gate, it must have been kind of a big move coming out of your entire life in Southern California.
Yeah, the aunt and uncle that told me not to go to law school and happened to live up here, so it wasn't totally foreign. I'd spent a lot of time up in the Bay Area visiting them. But other than that, I really didn't have any other friends and family here.
You graduated from law school, and now you have a very successful, very active, fairly large family law firm that you run. And I'm wondering if you could kind of walk us through the process of how you got from graduating from law school to the work situation that you're in now.
Yeah, I started out practicing civil litigation. I did some personal injury, and I actually very much disliked it. I had a visceral reaction to it. I really did not enjoy it. And I was talking to a colleague of mine who had just landed a family law job in the city, and he was bragging about how much he enjoyed what he was doing and how, work-life balance was great and he was working on interesting issues. So I thought, that sounds pretty good. I like community property. So it was back in the days of the, job ads in the Recorder. And so there was a job ad in the Recorder for a family law job in Pleasanton. And I didn't really even know where Pleasanton was at the time. So I applied and I got the interview, and the interview was spectacular. I hit it off with the, hiring manager, and he kind of fell in love with the idea of the firm in that interview. And I was incredibly lucky in the sense that I landed into a firm that had really incredible family lawyers. I wasn't savvy enough to do my due diligence about the lawyers that I was working with before. And so I just happened to luck out and get really incredible mentors and bosses. And I stayed there for many years, honing the craft. They trained me, building my reputation and my book. By the time they hit their tail end of their career, I was ready to, launch my own. And so shortly after that, I started my own firm. It was about 7 years ago.
You just said something that I want to talk about a little bit. You said you've been building your own book of business. Can you talk about why that's so important for a lawyer to have?
And again, I just followed what the lawyers that I worked for did. And so when I was doing it, I didn't really understand the importance of it, but especially in family law and probably criminal law, a whole bunch of other areas of law where you don't have corporate institutional clients. So you just don't have one client that will be with you for all of your career. You regularly have to have new clients looking for your services and what you do. And so if you don't have people who want your services and are looking for your services, there's no law to practice.
Yeah, that's right.
So the book, building a base of business is how you get to do what you want to do.
That just sort of, work kind of naturally for you? Was it just kind of a natural flow, or was it something where someone really talked to you about how important it was?
No, it was definitely something. No one really talked to me about how important it was. The firm that I worked for definitely had an emphasis on, doing what they did. And so, for example, there was a long history of the lawyers at that firm being involved in the Inns of Court. And so, once I had been in at the firm for, 2-3 years and really, had a bit of a solid base of foundational legal training, then they really wanted me to get more involved in the legal community. And so from, for the next, I would say 5 years, I joined probably a half dozen boards in the family law community and organizations that I really focused my efforts on. And it wasn't that I divined this out of my own creativity or my own smarts, is that these are the groups that my firm was involved in. And so I just kind of blindly followed the path. And some of it, so that was like subconsciously taught to me, right? This is what everybody else did, so this is what you have to do. But the why wasn't really explained. Why is this important? Wasn't part of that education. But the part that did come naturally for me is building relationships in those organizations. And so as I was going through, time being involved in these very different groups, I genuinely enjoyed it and made friends and built relationships with people like you in those groups.
When you first went on your own, what was that like?
It was exciting and scary. It's almost that sensation, that I felt when I started to practice law. When, I like it. Someone told this to me once. You're sitting in a chair that has 4 legs on the ground. When you start to practice law or when you open up your own firm, you only have 2 legs on the ground. And you don't know, you're going to fall on your ass, or you're going to fall, you're going to land on your feet. So it was this teetering like sensation where, you don't know what's going to happen. So it was exciting and scary at the same time.
How long has that been since you went out on your own?
And that was about 7 years ago.
And how many people are working in your firm now?
About 10 to 12.
I mean, that's really an exponential expansion of a law firm, don't you think?
I didn't intentionally set it out to be. It can feel that way at times. I really try to focus on growth that is the right growth. So it's not, I don't add people for the sake of adding people. I think I try to make sure that whoever joins the firm is the right fit and it's more organic growth than growth by some other design.
What do you really like about practicing law? I mean, you've obviously have business sense. You have good people skills. There's a lot of things that you could do. You chose to go into the practice of law. You had a drawing to it when you were even just a child, but you've been there now. You've really been a lawyer. You've had a career. You run your own firm, very involved in it. What is it that you like about it, and what is it that keeps you as a practicing attorney?
So I'm probably one of the happiest family lawyers you ever did see. And what I love about family law particularly is that I get to work on issues that are very broad, right? So family law is one of those fields in which you have to know a little bit about a lot of things. But family law itself is quite complicated. And so you have to have a breadth of experience and a lot of crossover issues and a depth of experience in family law. And so I love that about family law. I also love that it requires IQ and EQ. You can't be a droid and practice this kind of law. You have to be able to connect and understand humans and the human condition and suffering that people go through. And I think it's really hard work in that sense because it's very emotional and people are going through one of the hardest times of their life. And what I love about it and find that keeps me going is that people trust me to walk through one of the most difficult times of their life with them and be that guide for them. And so I find incredible gratitude in that blessing.
Do you sometimes feel this enormous responsibility for taking on that burden with someone at such a difficult time in their life?
Yes and no. I mean, I think there's a healthy dose of objectivity you need to have to be a good family law attorney. I think you can't enmesh yourself in your client's problems, but I do, take the work that I do very seriously. And so in that regard, there's an enormous responsibility in being a lawyer. And so, when these are decisions that affect people's lives very closely, then yes, I no matter how objective I am, there is a heavy dose of responsibility that comes with that.
If a young person were just coming out of college, would you recommend law as a career choice and family law specifically as a career choice?
Absolutely. Without doubt.
Why?
Because it's been so rewarding and fulfilling for me. And I recognize that it's not that for a lot of lawyers. I know there are a lot of lawyers that don't enjoy what they do as much as I do. But if I enjoy it so much, I wouldn't discourage young graduates from that.
How is actually practicing law either met or different from your expectations?
I never thought about that. I don't know what I expected. I don't remember having any expectations about practicing family law. I was so young and maybe dumb or just naive that I just thought, I'm going to be a lawyer. Of course I'm going to be a lawyer. I want to be a lawyer. I'm going to go be a lawyer. But I didn't really ever reflect on what that was going to be like. I did a few internships in law school and, I had the opportunity to do an entertainment law internship because I thought, maybe I'd practice entertainment law, and that was dreadfully boring. So that didn't meet my expectations. So, I guess it's as exciting as I wanted it to be.
Well, I mean, I think that family law, to some extent, does satisfy the, fantasy that people have about lawyering. You're representing a real client. There's a real person that you can relate to as the client, as opposed to, Chevron or something like that. And then you go to court, you stand up in front of the judge, you argue a case, you argue a point, you represent a position of advocacy. So I think that family law is one of those areas of law, like criminal law for that matter, where it kind of does satisfy the fantasy of what I think a lot of people think lawyering is. Do you have a comment about that? I mean, do you agree, disagree? What do you think?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess the expectation I had is that, it would be interesting. It would be intellectually challenging. I would get to work with real people and real problems. And so, to the extent that I think you're right. I think family law checks those boxes, at least for me.
What do you think's the best advice you've ever received?
A friend of mine told me that everything is temporary, and it related to my kid. It had nothing to do with law. But I still think it's wonderful advice. No matter the circumstance or the situation, literally everything is temporary.
And if a young person were just starting out a legal career, what advice would you give to that individual?
Find as many mentors as you can. I've had incredible mentors over the years and still collect them. You have to nurture those relationships and seek out the support and the advice from people that can do that for you.
Do you think the legal system is fair?
Often, but not always.
I'm going to shift gears here a little bit. What's your family life been like, and how has practicing law affected your family life fit into your practice fit into your family life? How's that worked for you?
So when I first started practicing law as an associate at a firm, I kept my legal life and my family life very separate. And as I opened up my own firm and my work life and my personal life started to blend more, and they're, often one and the same. I'm also lucky to have a really wonderful spouse that is very accommodating and supportive of my work and my commitment to being a family law attorney and running my own business. And so I have a lot of support at home.
And you have children?
I have one 13-year-old troublemaker.
That's redundant, isn't it?
Yes. He's should be coming home from school any minute now.
What sort of recreational pursuits do you enjoy? Things to kind of clear your mind when it's time to leave work.
We're a really active family. We love the outdoors and the exercise. I did my first sprint triathlon this year. We hike, we bike, we paddleboard, we travel, we have dogs, spend a lot of time with our dogs, hiking, outdoors, active family.
How do you define success?
Establishing a practice that you're happy with, where you get to do the kind of work that fulfills you for clients that you enjoy working with. And that's pretty successful to me.
Let's say you came into some real money. Let's say $3 or $4 billion. What, if anything, would you do differently in your life?
I mean, I'd probably scale back a little bit, but I would probably still practice law. I would maybe take more time off, have work from Hawaii a little bit more, but as of right now, probably not do too much too differently.
Let's say someone gave you 60 seconds on the Super Bowl. You could put out an advertisement for whatever you wanted to this enormous audience. What would you say?
Be better to each other. Just everybody needs to be a little bit kinder to each other. We could all use some more kindness.
Renee, if someone wants to get in touch with you, an attorney wanted to refer you a matter, someone listening to this wanted to call you or your firm about some legal advice, what's the best way to get in touch with you? Is there a website that people can look for so that they can find your email, contact information?
Sure. Yeah, they can go to our website, rossfamilylaw.com, and submit an inquiry for the website.
And so that's rossfamilylaw.com. Is that correct?
You've got it.
All right. Renee, is there anything you want to talk about that we haven't touched on, haven't discussed? Anything you want to bring up?
No, I think we covered it. You had a great list of questions to go through.
All right. Renee Ross, thank you so much for joining me today on the Love Thy Lawyer podcast. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to talk with you as well.
That's it for today's episode of Love Thy Lawyer. If you enjoyed listening, please share it with a friend and follow the podcast. If you have comments or suggestions, send me an email. Take a look at our website at lovethylawyer.com, where you can find all of our episodes, transcripts, photographs, and information. Thanks to my guests, and to Joel Katz for music, Brian Matheson for technical support, Paul Roberts for social media, and Tracy Harvey. I'm Louis Goodman.
Not much of anything that I recall, but nothing else that I strongly recall. This is a terrible answer. Blah, blah, blah. No, I don't have a good answer to this question. I don't have a good answer to that one right now. I'll have to get back to you on that.